Welcome into TexAgs Rewind, presented by T-Mobile. What a huge show we had for you today. We had Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy's flip from Oklahoma to A&M. We talked about that. Mark Nabou saying A&M is all his. And we want to remind you guys that this show is brought to you by T-Mobile, who's a proud sponsor, and they want you to visit T-Mobile.com/acrossamerica to learn more how you can get value and coverage there with T-Mobile. And what a show. All right, so Billy Liucci called in the show. He had to. Anytime there's a big recruit, we got to get Billy on the line. I know it's hard to get him on the show. We had to get him. Charean Williams talking about the Aggies in the NFL. Not a huge weekend for Aggies in the NFL, but she also offered some thoughts on the direction of the program recruiting-wise. Jason Howell, more on recruiting. How about that Mark Nabou big get? And Chris Taylor looking at the 2021 season. He came to the studio. This is TexAgs Rewind.
But, man, what a monster get. I know Howell's going to talk more about it later, but this is as big as it gets, guys. I mean, how many D linemen has A&M ever signed more highly regarded than Brownlow-Dindy?
Maybe Miles
Garrett,
maybe Miles,
Sam
maybe
Adams.
Sam, and maybe DeMarvin. Maybe.
Leal, yeah. I mean, maybe DeMarvin. I'd bet pretty similar there. I mean, you're talking about a guy that in one service is the number 7 player in the state, in the country. He's the number 10 consensus. And he is as good off the field as he is on, and that's what makes a 5-star kind of a can't miss. When they have that kind of tape, that kind of frame, and then on top of that, the quality of character kid as Gabe is, it's incredible. So that's one that you don't want to say it fell in A&M's lap, because they had to work incredibly hard to get him. Fell just short. They had to work hard again. It didn't take a whole lot of time the second time around because the way things transpired in Norman. But it wasn't something you expected, say, 3 weeks ago when you were looking at how you might round out your class. It's something like something akin to an early Christmas present, I think. 5-star D lineman that you watch him on tape, and he's a game wrecker. He is a game-wrecking dude, and at 280, I think he fits really well with this defense and the way they play. You know, there's no problem playing those big defensive ends. In fact, it seems like Mike Elko prefers to have one of each, you know, lining up on the outside. So he's special. When you pop on that tape, I mean, he's 280 and looks like you could swear that was a linebacker running around chasing ball carriers and making plays in the backfield, but it's a 280-pound defensive end, which is just absurd.
Well, it wasn't a good week. There were just so many teams on buys. Tennessee, Cleveland, a bunch of our teams just had buys, and Christian Kirk did not do very much for the Cardinals in their big win. So we'll go Josh Reynolds, 4 catches, 69 yards for the Lions. Again, he's just playing awfully well. I think he's found a place where he can succeed, and they're going to use him, and he's playing really well there, and he has a connection with Jared Goff. Number 2, Mike Evans, seems like he's on this list every single week. 7 catches, 99 yards. Bucks look pretty darn good on Sunday. I think they're back. They found their mojo a little bit when they get Antonio Brown. If they don't cut him, if they bring him back, they're going to be really good, healthy, ready to go in the postseason. Will be interesting to watch to see if they cut AB when he comes back off his suspension. Number 1 should be obvious, Dane Campbell, and just everything that Michigan went through with the Oxford shootings, and they dedicated that win to Oxford. I just saw his press conference was outstanding after the game. I watched the whole thing, and then I watched the video that the Lions put up of him in the locker room, and you could see that the players loved him and why they loved him. And I just think he's the right coach for this team. Called some great plays. He's now the play caller. Just called some great plays in that last drive. Surprised on the 14 plays that Minnesota only blitzed 1, but Detroit used that to its advantage and obviously made the right play on the last play of the game to win the game. Just an outstanding job. Happy to see it for Dane Campbell and Aaron Glenn and Josh Reynolds and all those Aggies they have up in Detroit.
Well, I think the biggest thing is the coaching staffs know what they're looking for. And it's different. It can vary from staff to staff. You'll see some schools have higher priority on certain guys. But A&M, when they got him in camp, they immediately saw his size, his build, and just the way he went through drills and attacked the game of football. They immediately saw something they liked. The connection there with Nabou and his and Coach Henson was something, it was something that really clicked there. Just working with each other. Sometimes you get that feeling, and I think that may have played a part, but they saw the ability. They saw a guy that could be that is an SEC caliber lineman, big, strong, heavy-handed, and a guy that can be versatile across the line. And he's also not a guy that I don't think he did a whole lot of camps. He, like I said, he wasn't a big self-promoter guy. He wasn't touting every offer and all that kind of thing. So, that some of that kind of plays into it with the stars and things like that. And but I think anybody that had a chance to really work with him and get to know him and see, what he brought to the table in terms of size and ability, then they fell in love pretty quick.
But they did play phenomenally against Alabama. They did against Auburn, and those are two of the big dogs. And when you played Auburn, this was not the Auburn that we saw without their quarterback. They were the hot team that people were saying could find their way into. It's just that is the SEC West. It is just such a juggernaut. They were not the A&M team we saw that started the season is not the team that we saw in the middle of the season. Unfortunately, it didn't end well either.
Right. And all of those teams that you mentioned, you mentioned Alabama, you mentioned Auburn, even Ole Miss, Mississippi State, the teams that we kind of walk through those first halves. Obviously Alabama, they played a flawless game. They were great when they played Alabama, but your Arkansas game, they didn't have that turnover at quarterback. And not making excuses for A&M at all, because you have guys on scholarship. They do too. Calzada has a job to do. He's there. He's on scholarship. He's expected to perform at a high level. However, you go through the spring, you go through the fall, you name Haynes as your quarterback one. You lose him in the first quarter of that Colorado game. Now you're scrambling to try to figure it out. And that's not an easy place to be. I don't think Calzada expected to play, at all really during the season, maybe some cleanup time. But all of those teams that we mentioned, your Ole Misses, your Mississippi States, your Auburns, your Ole Misses, they all were able to stay relatively healthy at that quarterback position. Yeah, Corral was a little limited when we played him. But I don't think that, 4-4 in a league that, in my opinion, the league itself is better than some conferences out there, and it's tough to win in the SEC. It's tough to win football games. People look at it and say, they look at the players and look at the roster and say that, our roster is better than yours, but you still have to go out and execute it on Saturdays. And so, 8-4, I don't think that's where
we're not happy with 8-4.
No, that's not where we expect it to be. But it could have been worse, but at the same time, it could have been a lot better as well.
And I think more my point is that Mississippi State in any conference other than the SEC West probably wins their conference or is in the mix to win it, right? You could say the same thing about Arkansas this year with all the changes that they had. Ole Miss, what are they, 10-2, whatever they are?
Ole Miss 10-2.
Right? Yeah. A team that I think you should have won.
Yeah.
Even with that terrible first half. And those are the teams that you're going against. And unfortunately, though, you weren't very good on the road. So I'll give you that. This is a team that struggled, especially in the first half on the road. We saw it against Ole Miss. We saw it against Colorado. We saw it against Arkansas. Who else did we see it against?
Mississippi State.
And that one being at home. But then on the road at Baton Rouge, you didn't start off great either.
You didn't start off great there either. And with teams of that caliber, you can't start slow and expect to try to have a furious comeback to win those games. It's just not going to happen.
All right, thank you so much for watching. Want to remind you guys to tell your friends about this right now. Get on your phone, call your friends, tell them, watch this TexAgs Rewind. It's great. Do it in that voice. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Appreciate you guys for watching. TexAgs Rewind, presented by T-Mobile.